Okay, good, good, good. Good, good, good. All right. I'm glad y'all can hear me. I'm gonna bring myself in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. There we go. Testing everything as I'm going along. All right, cool. Let's see. Is it? There we go. All right, peace, y'all. All right, peace. Wondering, can folks hear me? Y'all can hear me.
I
And I
can hear you.
Okay, there you go. All right, peace. Peace, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Breaking Barriers podcast. I'm your host, Piper Carter. In the building. Peace, Coco. Can you
Peace.
hear us?
What's up? Yeah,
All
yeah, I
right,
can hear
yes.
it.
Okay,
Peace.
Black
What's going
Alliance for
on?
Peace. Yeah, free the land.
Community movement builders, PGRNA. Yes, I got a lot of organizations I work with.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. And then Tom Disease, wait, you there?
I am here.
Okay, who you repping tonight?
I'm repping West Side tonight, who I always rep.
Okay, that's what's up.
West
LA
Coast,
LA? You in LA?
LA, baby, LA.
Okay, that's what's up. Okay, and then also Ann Lamb. And who you repping, Ann?
Oh, I represent the New York City chapter of the National Jericho Movement. We work to free all USO political prisoners and prisoners of war. So that's what I'm doing.
Okay, that's what's
Great to
up.
hear your voice
Thank
again,
you.
Dandy. Way.
Hey, Ann, how are
Been a
you?
long time since I was in LA.
Right,
Good,
right.
good.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say peace to everyone in the chat. And this is gonna be a great show, I think, because well, number one, let's just start with the business of the day. Just tell us the call. Let's start with the call to action and then we'll get into the conversation.
Oh, the current call to action for Joy Powell and the women at Bedford Hills and Taconic. Bedford Hills and Taconic are two of the three women's prisons in New York State, and they're both in the town of Bedford Hills, and they're right across the street from each other. Bedford Hills is the max, and Taconic is the medium. And neither one of these older prisons has any form whatsoever of air conditioning. So, the women have been suffering because it's been very hot. And they also had recently a very huge infestation of all kinds of insects, which they always have anyway. But Joy herself was getting bitten. I went up to visit her. Very nicely, the young woman who was doing the photography, we went outside. She took pictures of the bug bites, which got her in trouble. She lost her job because of that. But anyway, she took pictures of the bug bites, and I got in touch with the Correctional Association of New York, which is able to, they're able to actually go inside the prisons, not on a scheduled visit and investigate, things that are going on and all that. So they have a lot of clout. So I sent them the pictures and a whole little report from Joy. This is what's happening. The prison doctor was opining that these were possibly spiders. There were some pretty bad bites, I can tell you that. And then just a few days later, Joy called me to say, oh, this is like a miracle. We don't know what happened. But for the first time, as she said, she'd been there for more than 16 years. For the first time in the more than 16 years that she's been there, they had seen an exterminator. But the exterminator, of course, only came and did the unit that Joy was on. So that means that all these insects are going to go and proliferate throughout the rest of the building, right? So we are asking people to make some phone calls to the central office, which is the docks commissioner, the new acting docks commissioner, and his name is Daniel F. Martuscello III. And he can be reached at 518-457-8126. That's 518-457-8126. And also call the governor, Governor Hochul. She can be reached at 518-474-8390. That's 518-474-8390. So we are asking that people call and demand that there be thorough fumigation of the hills as soon as possible, because in addition to biting insects, also sink flies, flying cars in the showers, and infestation of mice throughout the prison. Our loved ones should not be held in these unsanitary conditions. The complete lack of air conditioning in the prison is also a serious health and unprecedented heat. There is no air conditioning at Taconic either, so women in both prisons are suffering from excessive heat. So that's what's going on with that. And then found out from Laura Whitehorn, one of our former political initiatives, one of the co-founders of the RAP campaign here in New York State, release aging people in prison. She sent me this from a group called New Hour. So New Hour, in collaboration with the Town of Bedford Prison Relations Advisory Committee, presents Fans for Friends in our correctional facilities. Rising temperatures due to climate change are especially oppressive to our neighbors in correctional facilities who do not have the privilege of turning on their AC or taking a dip in the pool. To address this public health issue, we are working in collaboration with Bucks to ensure women behind bars are able to mitigate the heat. Not by much with this, but it's better than nothing. We are now collecting donations for the purchase of 8-inch fans for the women in Bedford's 2 New York State prisons. As I said, that's Bedford Hills and Taconic. And to donate, you can visit bit.ly, bit.ly/Bedford Fans with the capital B and the capital F fans. Full B Bedford, capital F Fans. So they've been moving forward with that because Joy told me that they just recently actually announced that at the prison. So that is a good thing. Now, in the meantime, while we're waiting for them to fumigate the rest of the prison, they suddenly, to move the women in Joy's unit, they say they have to fix the doors, right? She just called me about this the other day. So in order to fix the doors, they move them to this other unit, which is very interesting because it was filthy, she said. Apparently, haven't used. She says, I'm putting out, this is from the 24th, I'm putting out a serious message requesting your assistance. Things here have gone from bad to worse. In a split second yesterday, my unit was told to pack up because we had a couple of hours to move. And being I have a herniatic disc in my neck and a bad foot, I needed assistance. This took another 4 hours to get assigned help. The unit we were moved to was so dirty that it was trash all over the place. There was all kinds of dirt coming out, and there's only 2 showers that work for the women. And it's also hard hearing. So she's now on a unit that does not accommodate her with TTY to send her phone messages. So the operator can text what the caller is saying. So that's a bad thing. And she says the place is also filled, of course, bugs and mice. And because the windows don't have screens and it's way too hot to close your windows, they are, the bugs are just flying into people's accommodations, their people's cells. So that's the condition right now. So as long as people are calling up to the central office and governor anyway, we can mention that as well. Okay, fine, came in, you fumigated 1 unit in a building. Then you make the women move because you're supposedly fixing some doors, and you put them in this unused portion of the prison that's totally filthy, will refuse to provide women with cleaning supplies. She said she spent a day and a half just cleaning the cell. So I can imagine how horrible it must be. So, that's the story with what's going on here in New York State with, our women prisoners and with Joy. And Joy, of course, is part of the Inmate Liaison Committee, so always advocating for everybody else. And that often gets her in trouble, too. But she does that very well. And a lot of the women, they have a lot of respect for Joy. When I go to visit, any other women who come into the visiting room, they're always like, hi, Joy. So, they know that, she's been wrongfully convicted. She's been in prison for a long time. Her current release date is 2045 if we don't get wrongful conviction over time. So, that's what we've been working on for the past couple of years. And we'll have some, dates and some results on that very soon. So thank you so much for your time. And please do so. It's very important. You can imagine if you were stuck in a little small room like the size of your bathroom and you had no air conditioning, no fan in this heat, you can imagine how you would feel. In Texas, they call them concrete coffins because all prisoners in Texas have died because of the same reason. We don't want that to happen here.
So thank you, Anne, first of all, for like breaking all of that down and giving us a, a full update. I asked Coco to join us because well, Coco told me that, she'd worked on some different campaigns, but I think Joy was included. And then also well, we know, I mean, a lot of us know, Tandazi Sway's great work in journalism, just in general with the issue. So I've asked them to join the conversation just in general. So, and I know folks might be wondering, like, this is a women in hip hop podcast. Like, why are we talking about, the
Oh,
carceral system?
that's one
Yeah, go
reason.
ahead.
One reason we
Yeah.
can talk about the carceral system specifically for Joy Powell is her second wrongful conviction was actually based on an audio tape that is supposedly Joy Powell's voice, which they never tested, doing a hip hop song. So she was basically wrongfully convicted on the second wrongful conviction due to the lyrics in the hip hop song. So it definitely does relate to hip hop.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and just all month on Beyond Breaking Barriers, we've centered, just talking about Joy, uplifting her, and it really came from, I was thinking about what Remy Ma said some years ago when she went on a tour when she was released, and she named how she felt privileged to be able to have like lots of visitors, lots of attention, but that there were many women. She thought about the women that she came across who were mothers, and as we know, a lot of the time the burden of care is usually placed on women. And she was saying how um, it hurt, that these women who are placed with all this care in our communities, like people were not visiting them, people were not checking on them. Many of them hadn't seen their children or their loved ones or their person they're in a relationship with for many years. And so that's why we're lifting up, Joy. I want to lift up so many more, but I think just in the land of, trying to get some more energy around her case. And maybe I'll throw it to Coco to talk about maybe the work that you had done in the past, because you were very familiar. And could you share a bit about your experience?
Sure. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't, at the front and center of her campaign. However, as someone who was a liaison with Jailhouse Lawyers Speak, I was, someone who promoted a campaign called Strategic Release. And so that was acknowledging that Joy Powell was indeed a political prisoner based on her conviction, the work that she did in her community. And, obviously she was targeted by the police in her community. And so, obviously her sentence is really extreme, and she's been, going through a lot of conditions, a lot of issues. I receive updates through JPay that she sends out asking for help and support. So I'll see those sometimes. I'm not, always. JPay is all these apps, these surveillance apps I have a lot of issues with, but I think, and I had invited her to participate in a panel discussion that I was organizing a few years ago. And, primarily it was about, thinking about abolition, thinking about what it means to dismantle the prison industrial complex, and thinking about, what can we do as supporters, as people on the outside, to help support these campaigns, and think about the long-term struggle that we have to free people who are inside behind the walls, political prisoners, people who are wrongfully convicted, and obviously a variety of reasons why people are inside. But that's primarily some of the work and support that I was doing, obviously to help bring to light her campaign. So I did share, when I was on social media, I shared a lot of her campaign as well. So just uplifting that, and I yield.
Yeah, thank you for that. And then I want to bring you into the conversation, Tandazi Sway. I wanted you to share about, because your work, well, for me, it's at the intersections of gender and just the fuck shit of of all the things. And so I wanted to bring you into the conversation and talk more a little bit about the work that you've done to highlight women and just the intersection of like the police state and on our bodies and on our people.
Well, let's see. In terms of the work, I haven't really spearheaded, if that's a term I can use, any work, but I have discussed various cases and various, for lack of a word, phenomena. What I mean by phenomena is quote unquote like an event happening. For example, several years ago, Amnesty International, which quote unquote advocates for prisoners of conscience, there's some type of agreement that they have that wherever their chapters are, they can't bring a campaign in that particular country. The cases of Geronimo Gijaga and Leonard Peltier were such glaring injustices that they kind of allowed that to slide. But you really can't look at any Amnesty International cases or events or times when they focused on the U.S., except in, I believe, the late 90s, early 2000s, when they looked at women in prison and they called it, the campaign was Not Part of My Sentence. And they were talking about the various things that happened to women in prison. Rape was not part of the sentence. Torture is not part of the sentence. These are the things that should not be happening to anyone in prison, but they were looking at the issue of women in prison. Of course, the shackling of women prisoners when they're giving birth, right? So these are various issues that I've talked about over the years. A couple of years ago, I did a project with Making Contact, the National Radio Project, Say Her Name, looking at women who are murdered by the police and why aren't their cases given more popularity, more traction, more amplification. But it's all pretty much part of the same work to highlight not only mass incarceration and the prison industrial complex, but it's looking at the ways we are affected by being criminalized, both our movements for liberation and just our existence as a people. We've been criminalized from birth. And Khalid Muhammad, no, not Khalid Muhammad, what's his name? He's the grandson of Elijah Muhammad, Khalil Gibran Muhammad, in his book on black criminality. Is a good, it's a good, I'm surprised we didn't talk about that during Black August, but he looks at how crime statistics came to take precedence in terms of criminalizing black people, and how, of course, crimes that whites or other ethnic immigrants who would go on to become racialized as white were not penalized for the same crimes that black people would commit. And that's, of course, an outgrowth of the black codes during Reconstruction. The things that we end up doing are just so much more horrible, so much worse. It's just so horrific when a group of three black people gather on a corner. If we spin on a sidewalk, if we litter, it's like the end of society, the fall of civilization when we do it. And so that's the criminalization of our people. Mass incarceration, our personal failings are the reasons why we have such a high crime rate. It has nothing to do with society at large. A white supremacist society has nothing to do with policies. It's us. And that's why everyone else in America needs to be protected from us, right? And then you have our freedom fighters who are fighting to put an end to this oppression and repression. And they get targeted and placed in prison. And they get singled out because they have to be isolated. The state cannot afford to allow them to stay amongst general population because they will conscientize them and organize them. And that is the threat that the state cannot have. Yes, strip searching by guards, watched by men guards while bathing, and of course, rape by male guards. Yes, women are shackled while giving birth in prison. I'm looking at the comments.
Yeah, and speaking of the shackled while giving birth in prison, much love to my comrade Sawatu Salamura here in Detroit, who was, I'll say, wrongly terrorized, but I guess the word is convicted by the prosecutor here, and she was forced to give birth shackled down. I wanted to I wanted all of us to kind of speak to doing the work that we do, whatever our entry point is, but doing the work that we do around uplifting, our voices, women's voices. And I wanted to ask you, and I have a surprise for you, Anne. You're white. How did you end up, how did you end up doing this work as a white woman? What made you say, like, this is what I'm gonna do? You there? Oh, there you go.
I'm here, but I couldn't. The computer decided to buffer.
Oh, you want me to repeat?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. I couldn't really hear for a second.
Okay,
there. As I
yeah.
say, all of a sudden you were buffering for some reason on my computer.
I said we as a white woman, what made you as a white woman decide, like, this is what I'm gonna do?
Again. That's so strange. Yeah, I'd like to do it again when you repeated yourself, so I still couldn't.
Okay, yeah.
It.
I said can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. I said, as a white woman, right? What made you decide to do this work as a white woman?
I wrote it in the chat in case you can't hear.
Thanks. Okay, thanks.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Well, one thing is, we do know I am a white woman, and I do have white skin privilege in this society. But a couple of things. I grew up in the South Bronx in the 60s and 70s, and there was, serious racism going on in the South Bronx in those years. Landlord arson to get rid of, black and brown people, specifically, African American and Puerto Rican people, mostly at that time. My family was one of the families that did not flee. We stayed. I have to also thank my parents in many ways, because I believe and I know for a fact that racism is something that is taught to people, and it is taught to people from a very early age. And my parents never taught us that. We were never taught that we were better than anybody else or that anybody was beneath us. And so that was a very important thing. And then as I was getting older, there was all kinds of things going on. When I was a teenager, I was busy marching in Puerto Rican Day Parade every year for the Puerto Rican political prisoners, which were the ones from 1954. And then, that work has continued. So been doing this more or less for 50 years. And certainly with Jericho, I mean, if you've ever had the privilege, as many of us no longer have, he's no longer with us, to have met Safia Bukhari, who is one of our co-founders, and a former political prisoner herself, who also even did some time on death row in Virginia. She was so committed to everybody. She was so committed to freeing all her comrades. She was so committed to creating this movement, and so, I said, okay, we're here, I'll be your white ally. I think it's very important. We all have to fight together. You can't be like looking at other people like you're different from me, and therefore, I refuse to speak to you because you're black or brown. I mean, as I say, thank God I was not raised that way. But, in this society, a lot of people feel that way, and we're seeing it every day now. It's really horrible, the level of racism that's going on. And, the current thing with the education, and we're not going to teach Black history, and we're going to tell people that they benefited from slavery. Don't even get me started. It is so horrible, this whole fascistic movement that's going on right now. And I think that those of us who are white people, who are melanin deprived, as I say, it's up to us to speak out about this more than anybody else. Because, that's some of our people who are doing that. And if I don't say to one of my people who's doing that and call them out on it, then I'm being complicit. And I'm not going to comply. I'm not going to be with that. And I never have been, and I hope to God I never will be. And, if we have to fight the system until the day we die, then we'll fight the system till the day we die. But we're just not having it. We're not going back. I mean, here we were 60 years ago, the whole big march on Washington. And, what are people saying now? What did we get out of that? What did we really achieve? The community itself is saying, well, here we are. We're back where we were 6 years ago. And that is really unconscionable. And that's the trouble with this, white settler state, which is what it is. It's a white settler state. It always has been. And that's what it was founded on. And that's what all these, white replacement, great replacement white folk are talking about, make America great again. They don't mean that. They mean to make some mythical America, which has never existed, white again. And that to them are the only Americans. And, we're just not, the rest of us are not accepting that. And as Sanders already said, our freedom fighters who stand up and fight against the system are paying incredible, incredible, incredible prices for that. We have people been in prison for 50 years and more. For what? For daring to, confront this system and say you are wrong? That is everybody's right to do, and it's everybody's duty to do. And, that's why we have to do it. And I will try to lower my video resolution. Thank you, Coco.
Okay. Thank you for that. I wanted to see if either you, Coco, or you, Tandy, if y'all had questions for Ann. I just wanted to open it up just in case.
Yeah, so I guess like my main question, or my first question would be, currently, what are some things that Joy Powell might need in as far as support is concerned? What are some tangible things that people can do to help support, whether it's her campaign, whether it's writing to her? What are some things that you think, or is she asking for support in? And I yield.
Well, right now she was immediately asking for support with the issue that I was just talking about, with that whole thing with the mad infestation, and in addition, the thing of not having any proper, cooling system in either one of those two prisons. And as she herself said, it's not about me, it's about everybody in here. All the women are facing this thing. But I would encourage everybody, go to her website, freejoypowell.org. If you haven't already, you can read all about her case and what's going on with her case and what's happened in the past with her case. She does have a fundraiser trying to raise some money for, legal expenses as she tries to fight this wrongful conviction, or these wrongful convictions, we could say. And, that's important. And I would encourage everybody to write. It's so great, for people to get letters, to get, any kind of mail. You can also, of course, go on JPay and, put in her number there, 07G0632. And you can write to her that way as well. A lot of that is very censored, of course. All the mail is censored. Anything you send in, they read. I sent her something that, she had asked me to send her what the family wrote for Dr. Mutulu Shakur, after he passed. And I did send that to her, and they totally restricted it. They would not let it come in. And, we were talking on the visit, and I said, well, that's really so insane. The man isn't even alive. What possible danger could there be for Joy Powell to read what Mutulu's family said about him and his legacy and everything that he did? So, that's always those issues. But, you could send us some commissary money. That would never hurt. We in Jericho, one of the things we do is we provide the monthly food packages largely. Sometimes she'll have other people do it, but we usually do that. And, we're happy to be able to do that. It used to be better because we used to be able to go to the store, pick out the things we knew somebody liked, do the 35 pounds, bring it up there, have the COs go through it and decide what you could and couldn't have and all that nonsense. But the nice part was being able to, go to the store and say, okay, I know she likes this, or I know she likes that, pick out certain things you knew somebody liked. We can't do that anymore. They decided for the second time, no, it must go through only docs approved vendors. So now you just have to order it like online, and then they send it. And then the other thing is, to me, this is really weird, and I've been asking central office about this. I still haven't got an answer. If they are docs approved vendors, why are you still taking stuff out of the food packages and saying people can't have it? One would assume that if it's a docs approved vendor, you have approved the things that they're going to send into prisons. But, that's a little aside about that. But, yeah, people should definitely write to Joy. Tell her what you're doing. She herself is an excellent writer. She's also a poet. You can talk to her about anything. She'd be more than happy to hear from as many people as possible. It would be really a great thing to do. It only takes a few minutes. You just introduce yourself. I'm so-and-so. I live in such a place. Or I heard about you here and there. I heard about you on Piper Carter's, podcast, and really would like to get to know you better. You can even send in some pictures, not Polaroids. But if you wanted to send in a picture like of yourself or where you live, nice scenery is always nice. People like to see that. And she's a tremendous human being. And, I really like Joy a lot. I mean, she's just amazing. And, we've become really, really tight friends over the years. And I'm really happy and grateful to know her. And I will be much happier when we get her out the door on this wrongful conviction, because it's really just horrible. It's really horrible that, and there's so many people inside who are suffering the same thing, where you've been wrongfully convicted and, the system never wants to listen to your side. They have their side already, their narrative is already planned out. But yes, please write to Joy. She would love that. And she will respond. She always responds to everybody.
Yeah, thanks for that. I wonder, Tandy, if you can, did you have a question for Ann?
Yeah, Ann, is there should I say, what does Jericho have planned in terms of programs or action items? One of the things that Jericho first did when it came on the scene, they had a march around the White House and press conference in Washington, D.C. to call attention to the existence of political prisoners, prisoners of war, exiles, and the existence of itself to fight for their release. What programs or plans of action does Jericho have today?
Oh, boy. Myself.
Wait, you're muted, Ann. Okay, now you're not.
I know, I'm trying. I hit it too many times. All right. That's a very good question, because I'm only a chapter. I'm not, I'm part of National Jericho, but I'm on the advisory board, but I'm not making national plans at this point. That was our big march in 98 that was sort of announcing ourselves as being here. And that was very wonderful. But we've been doing local things. We've been doing, of course, due to the pandemic in the past, we've been involved in a lot of different Zoom meetings. We've been working with part of the Spirit of Mandela Coalition, trying to sort of, create something in the form of a united front, which we're calling the People's Senate, which is also very interesting. If you go to spiritofmandela.org, you can check that out. And also, of course, the JerichoMovement.com, so you can check out what we're doing. Currently, we've been working very hard on 2 other cases of elders who are brothers. One is Kamal Siddiqui, who is in Georgia, wrongfully convicted on an old cold case that they pulled up and said, oh, yeah, 20 years ago we had no evidence, but now we're going to convict you on killing this cop, right? Makes a lot of sense. Anyway, that's him. And then Ed Poindexter, who's been in prison for 50 years for a crime he didn't commit. People might know of Ed as one of the Omaha 2 from back in the day, 1971. And he's in really dire straits. He's going to be 79 years old. He has dialysis almost every day of the week. He's got diabetes. He's had a triple bypass, and there's a whole book about him that this guy Michael Richardson wrote about both of them. It's a classic COINTELPRO. These 2 guys were totally framed up by COINTELPRO back in the day. His co-defendant already died in prison in 2016. There was a big effort to try to get some kind of commutation of sentence, some kind of compassionate release from Mondo. It didn't happen. So now we're sort of working on the same level around Ed Poindexter. And I just heard from Sister Tekla, Lee Johnson, who's known them since forever. And his family has just gotten a new attorney to work specifically on this one thing. Let's get him out of there so he can at least spend the rest of his time with his family, which is what they really want. So this attorney just said today, I'm going to try to do some things on the QT. So we're going to tone ourselves down for a moment, because sometimes doing things on the QT actually does work, even though it's very counterintuitive. And to me, I'm not that kind of person. I want to go out there and make noise and make it a big deal, and say, hey, what are you doing? Why can't you release this man? What's your problem, etc. But I respect the attorney, because he knows the state of Nebraska. He's been there for a long time. He's got some connects on the inside, and he wants to try to do some things on the QT. So we're like, okay, cool. But we're still working to try to get everybody out. We still have people inside who have been in for so long that people don't know who they are anymore. I mean, look at Leonard Peltier. Another case. He's been one of our prisoners, since forever. Same thing, 79 years old. He's not well. He's totally innocent, and the whole world knows it. And will any president release him? Probably not. Since they haven't done it since Clinton, he said he was going to do it. He didn't do it. Obama could have done it. He didn't do it. We're not counting on Trump to do anything. This one, he's probably not going to do it. So, here's Paul Leonard. He's got another parole hearing in 2024. So that's what his support group is getting ready for now. It's like, even though it's still encouraging everybody, sign the petitions, write the White House, call the White House, do all that. Can't hurt. Keep the pressure on the president, because all of Leonard's legal appeals have been totally exhausted. But in the meantime, here's the poor man getting ready for yet another parole hearing. The last one that he had in 2009, he got a 15-year hit. So we went down to that one in 2009 in Lewisburg. We had a beautiful parole vigil. Native people came from all over the country. It was really amazing. But it didn't get him out the door. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But, we're continuing to do what we do, Thunder's Way. And I would love to have more big, public mobilizations. We're having some small mobilizations coming up. Just for Leonard, his birthday's coming up September 12th. So we'll be doing a couple of things here in New York City. I know Paulette Dote, who's down now in Florida. She's got a whole thing going on for Leonard in St. Petersburg on his birthday. So check out the website. We do try to post what's happening and let people know about it, JerichoMovement.com. And then we have our own here, JerichoNY.org. So, we'll post upcoming things. And we also, of course, work in alliance together with other folk. Work with MXGM. We work with, Anarchist Black Cross. We work with Black Alliance for Peace. We work with all kinds of folk in because we all have the same, interests and the same goals. And we all have, as Malcolm X said, we all have a common enemy, right? So, it behooves us to be as united as possible in purpose and to continue to try to free all of our freedom fighters. We want to bring them all home. And then we have the new current prisoners who are coming up. And we have to deal with, what's happening to people in Cop City. What's happening to those people who are getting charged with domestic terrorism. What's happening to the people who are fighting climate change. They've been getting some real heavy sentences too. So, we have to write to all those folk and ask them if they want to be, part of Jericho, because they have to, it's up to them if they want to or not. And then we have to add them on and, find out what they want to do, add up in their histories and make sure that they have some kind of support as well. Whether it comes from us at Jericho or it comes from somebody else or it comes from their family, that doesn't matter. What matters is that people inside have support and they know that we're out here for them. And especially for elder freedom fighters, they are not forgotten and they never will be forgotten.
Yeah, thank you. Coco, I know you got to get out of here soon, but before you go, I wanted you to help us, and I know you and Tandy could do the same, but can you take us into some of the work that Black Alliance for Peace does, just in terms of, connecting these dots? I think it's important to always uplift our international connection so that we don't, get polarized and that it's just here. So I wanted to, share a little bit about the work that y'all are doing too.
Yeah, I mean, Black Alliance for Peace is an organization, an alliance actually, of organizers. And we have a solidarity network as well, who organize nationally, we organize regionally, and then we also organize locally. So we have various campaigns. Some campaigns are focused internationally. Other campaigns are focused domestically. some are anti-militarization campaigns. A lot of them actually are. We have a campaign coming up in October, which is our Stop AFRICOM, and so that's coming up in October. And then we have our Zone of Peace campaign, which is thinking about our Americas and creating zones of peace throughout Latin America and North America, and just keep and thinking about in those regions how to create these zones of peace. And essentially all of these campaigns are to push against U.S. policy in ways that the United States typically uses the axis of power in conjunction with NATO to devastate nations and communities. And so Black Alliance for Peace supports these campaigns and builds alliances nationally, but also internationally, in order for us to, really push, that international solidarity. And so I think, I'm a part of several organizations, whether it's locally here in Atlanta with community movement builders. So there's always that connection as well to working more, locally on the grassroots level. But both of these organizations are mass organizations. It's important to build that mass base and support at this time, because I think that, right now it's a struggle, right? If we think about how many people are outside, you might see at protests, but how many of those people are actually organizing or being organized? And I think that, a major goal, I think, for all of us should be to organize and be organized, but also organize others. And in this moment in time, because fascism is is increasing its power, and it's always been here, but it's increasing its power. So I think it's important to connect these dots and and think about and for me, my main work is nation building, new African nation building. And so when I think about a lot of these organizations and thinking about what it means to develop some form of justice, what does that mean? But I don't look for justice within the system. I look for justice outside of the system. People censored, focused on creating justice ourselves, developing political power. And so I'm solely focused on that. I think about justice in terms of captive citizens, new Africans who are behind the walls. Some of the projects that I'm working on behind the scenes is focused on that. Here in Atlanta, we just had a Black August event that one of my comrades from Oakland, he came through and we facilitated a really good discussion around freeing our elders. And so I mentioned earlier the strategic release campaign that we were doing a couple of years ago, but that has transitioned to now a Free Our Elders campaign, in which there are many elders behind the walls, and thinking about what it means to strategically bring them out, because we need them here, right? We need our elders out. But then obviously the health reasons and all the we already know the conditions behind the walls and why we need people outside. But then there's also that deeper understanding that, the more of our elders who continue to languish inside just takes away from our communities and doesn't help us to build our communities, just the same as our women, new African women who are behind the walls. How many of them are mothers? And we know that those numbers are rising steadily, right? New African women are becoming more incarcerated at high levels and accelerating rates. And so many of them are mothers, many of them are caregivers. And so when we have those women behind the walls, what does it mean? Politically, economically, socially, to have our people captive behind these walls. So some of the work that I'm doing is to, think strategically about how we build our nation, but also thinking not just in terms of outside, but in building infrastructure outside, but also how do we support those that are on the inside to help bring them out as well. So I yield there.
Yeah, I told y'all this is a hip hop show.
Yes.
That was Coco's dropping bars. That's bars right there. So yeah, thanks for that,
Yes, it
because
is.
I think I think sometimes when we're here, I'm saying we're as in people that are in the United States, uh kind of get like, just a narrow view of
Mhm.
like our thing. But I think like the more and more
Mhm.
that we like visibilize that, like it's not just the police, right? It's like an entire ecosystem, like a global ecosystem, like you said, is connected to, our work that we're doing to like demilitarize the planet. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
to save the earth. Like all these things are connected, right? Like the ways in which, like you mentioned, Cop City. So the ways in which they're destroying the forest, right? Like inside Atlanta to like bring you the, I don't know, RoboCop technology 6.0 is the same way they're doing right in the rainforest in Brazil, and like murdering Black and Indigenous people, you know in the jungle, and just like taking over to put like missile bases there and stupidity like that. So I think it's important
Mhm.
for us to like just continue to have this conversation, especially as women, because I guess like for me, I had a little mini conversation with Coco. We were talking about like, where's all the women that want to have this type of conversation? Like we got to have more of us having these conversations, because a lot of times these conversations are had, but maybe we have them on the phone with our homegirl, and like but not necessarily visibly, so that other people could be invited to like, oh yeah, let's dismantle this bullshit. But I wanted to throw it over to you, Tandy, to talk about more of your journalism. I think it's also a war on journalists. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
war on journalists, like for real journalism, number one. But then also for journalists who are going to even talk about these things. And I wanted you to speak a bit more about your work, because I feel like you've been very courageous. And I want to know,
Yeah.
can you speak to that a little bit?
No, I haven't been courageous. I'm just hard headed, as my daddy say, stubborn. But I'm an
My
independent
dad said that
journalist.
too.
I came into journalism through media, through activism. I saw the power of narrative, the power of how getting a story wrong, whether deliberately or not deliberately, can change viewpoints, can change feelings, can change hearts, can change minds. So I picked up journalism along the way, even though I've always been a writer, but I picked up journalism on the job and have gone to school for it. But I know I'm not going to get a corporate job in media. That's just not going to happen. I'm not going to be seen as objective, even if when you look at my writing, you can see that there is an objectivity threshold that is that has been met in a lot of what I have written. But I know I'm not going to be able to, you know, do like Oprah Nim, any of these other people. I'm not going to be able to command that type of an audience. We ain't even going to talk about salary. That type of an audience to amplify the topics and the issues that I think are important. So I appreciate Black Power Media, but Black media has been a home for me. Black media has a host of problems, like a lot of other institutions got problems, but it has been a home, and it has always been a home for the raising of questions, for the raising of issues. It's always been a home for advocacy. Black media was born in the need to advocate for Black people. So I will always be thankful for Black media. But yeah, and independent media, even Pacifica with its history of dysfunction, has also made a space for
Mhm.
me. So I'm thankful for independent grassroots media. I'm thankful for Black media, and this is something that I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm going to keep on doing it. And I don't know if that answered your question
Excellent.
or not. I can get carried away, if you
No, I
haven't
like
figured that
that.
out
I
already.
like when Black women just run off at the mouth They're always trying to shut us up. I want to hear what you got to say.
Right.
But I wanted to honor, because I know Coco's got, major responsibilities that are super important. So I wanted to, just before you go, I wanted to know if you wanted to add anything before you got to go.
No, I mean, I just appreciate the space. I think it's important to have these conversations, to really discuss when we have, whether it's individuals or thinking about systemically, how many people are held captive behind the walls, and, bringing and develop and creating this space, I think is important. So Piper, I appreciate you for creating that tonight. And Anne, it was nice to meet you and hear about the work that you're doing on, in Jericho, and also with Joy Powell's campaign, because it's really important. I think, just to, it's not easy work. I'll tell you that it's not easy work. A lot of people behind the walls, they go through a lot of things, and it's an emotional roller coaster, especially when you get involved and you become close to people. It's like they become your family, and that to me is like, and so like you want to be there and you want to support, and everyone has things that are going on, and I understand that, like I too have a lot of things that I'm involved in, and I have, that are going on, and it's just that reminder to keep pushing, keep supporting. Sometimes we show our support and our love differently, and that's okay too. But it doesn't take a lot of time to sign a petition. It really doesn't take a lot of time to share a petition. If you're on social media or if you have networks, it doesn't really take much time at all to support a lot of these campaigns that are out here. And just as we think that it might be difficult and we might not see the end, Dr. Matula Shakur was released recently, and he was able to come out. He was able to see his mother before she passed, before he passed away. And I think that, those are moments that we have to, remember and be thankful for. We still have many more to go. And so I, have dedicated my life to, working toward this, whether it's visible to the world or not. I still behind the scenes, always doing this work. But I think that, I just encourage everyone, to struggle forward, get involved in some way, and then it will become easier. It's not easy at first, but it will become easier because you'll become more fluent at what you need to do and how you can do it. So I like I said, just encourage people to, show the love and support as they can. But I yield, and I will say goodnight to everyone. And hopefully I'll see everyone on Black Power Media soon with another episode of Confronting Contradictions. So I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Coco. Have a great evening. Peace.
You too. Peace.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you as well.
Yes, likewise. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, so Tandaziswe, I wanted to ask you another question. So you said before, like, well, I won't say that, but I'll say this. You're a person who is very, I want to say, like, clear to me. Like, your analysis is like very sharp and is very clear. And I feel like that's very valuable, because I feel like in our spaces, when I say our spaces, I'm talking about like maybe the activist sort of space. A lot of times it's I want to say it's a space where it's a lot of words, like a lot of big words, a lot of words with a lot of letters, and a lot of words that you're like, what are they talking about? But you're able to take, I guess it's like I would call it maybe the I don't know, is it like the sweetness and the medicine? But you're so sharp. Like, how are you able to take all of these like really complex concepts and then help us, digest them? And what advice would you give to folks who are maybe looking at this like, wow, helping to, support political prisoners? Like, that's deep. I can never do that. Like, what advice would you have to a person that's looking at this like,
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm trying to figure this stuff out like y'all.
Okay.
What are you talking about? Matter of fact, who are you talking about? Who are you talking about? You're laughing.
See what I mean?
Talking about you.
That's what I mean. Like, you know how to. I guess you took Malcolm X and you like make it plain. You know what I'm saying? Like you make it so
Yeah,
plain.
because my head hurt. I was like, what are you talking about? What I just asked you. Because so much is academic. I'm like, what are you talking about? What does that word mean? Why I gotta get a dictionary? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And that's one of the rules, actually, or not maybe a rule, but a guideline that we come back to as writers. You know, we start writing stuff and we get all happy with our words and we start flowing. And then, wait a minute, what am I talking about? What I can cut these words. I don't need this many words. And journalism is about brevity anyway, which is probably one of its problems. But you know, what are we talking about? Who are we talking to? And anybody can do any of this work. You know, everybody doesn't have to be out front. Lord knows everybody shouldn't be out front. There are pieces of this work where
For sure.
everyone can become involved. So, you know, my thing is because I've got disability issues, I'm not going to be out there in the streets until it's, you know, on that until it's that day, until it's that time. Until then, I can write, I can speak, I can help to amplify. No shade to Mamiya, no shade to Mamiya whatsoever. But I am not the voice of the voiceless. Everyone has a voice. I can help to amplify other people's voices. I can help to amplify issues. Now, the problem, however, well, I should say the problem used to be, you know, I'm working for, keep it a buck, black media, and I'm not being paid enough to sustain myself. I can't write about everything that I want to write about because I'm not going to be compensated. And, you know, sometimes I'm just like, well, I guess it ain't going to get written about because I ain't going to write for free. You know, so there becomes that tension. But, you know, again, all praises be Black Power Media. I can come on Black Power Media and speak to people about issues. I decided in August I was just going to do these Black August sessions, but I want, and these are very, very in my ideological, but I do want to do more news analysis, current event analysis, what's going on and why we should be concerned about it. So after I rest for a minute in September, that's what I want to get back to, as well as the ideological part, because we are engaged in a war.
Yep.
This is a war. This is a war for the hearts, minds, and bodies of not just our people. You know, my people are priority, but for humanity's sake, man.
Yep.
You know, you look around at the world today, it's ridiculous. And then you got TikTok and Instagram, and you see what they're doing. How are we not dealing with these issues? How are we
Yeah.
not? Well, one of the reasons
Right.
we're not dealing with these issues, just like me the other day, I'm trying to find news on my smart TV. I'm like, where did the app go? Where's my news at? And then I get the news and it's an hour behind. I'm like, I just got an update on Facebook. How do you not know this information? So news and information is critical and important. I'm dedicated to helping to bring that to our people. And like I said, what are you talking about? Let's break it down. That's one of the things that people keep telling me not to apologize and not to be critical about these Black August study sessions, but I have left out so much context. I have left out definitions. I have to do better because I know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get y'all to know what I'm talking about. I have to take my time and define terms. I have to provide more context. So I think you were asking me what is that other people can do. You know, I started out by writing to political prisoners and prisoners of war.
Exactly.
When I first learned about them, I wrote to Mutulu, I wrote to Sundiata, I wrote to Sekou. All those years ago, I was
Yeah.
a part of an organization at that time, New African People's Organization, when Mutulu,
Nipo.
I don't know if he was first incarcerated in California, but at some point, we were able to take people into the prison. And I met him and we hugged because he knew who I was because of the letters, you
Right.
know. So establishing those relationships because they want to isolate the political prisoners. and the prisoners of war. They want to isolate them within the prison and from the communities from which they come.
Mm-hmm.
Now, y'all can't be writing letters talking about, we're going to get you out of there. You can't do that.
No, you can't do that.
You can't do that. But you can write them about,
You might want to, but you can't say that. Don't say
we
that.
going to bust you out on the third, brother. We coming for you. You can't be doing all of that now.
No.
Right.
You can't be doing all of that.
Funny.
But yeah, now
Yeah.
the other thing too, because in a patriarchal society, a white supremacist patriarchal society, the greatest threat is going to be another man of color. So the focus is always going to be, a priority is always going to be Black men. So in the 60s, even though you've got Assata, you've got Angela Davis, even though you've got Safia Bukhari, the majority of people going to be targeted and arrested are going to be men. This is why we have the prison movement that we have today. This is why we have Black August, because of men in prison. Women political prisoners are few and far in between. But that's still a population that needs to be supported and, dare I say, radicalized. That is still, because if we're talking about nation building, creating a new society, what do we have for them that's different? What are we going to have for them that's different from what they're already dealing with? We have to reach to these sisters. Here in California, there's an organization called the California Coalition for Women Prisoners. To my knowledge, they only have that a Bay Area chapter. There used to be an organization, I think it predated California Coalition for Women Prisoners, but there used to be a group called Out of Control, and I forget the exact name, but Out of Control Lesbian Support for Political Prisoners, or Lesbian Support for Women Prisoners, something to the effect. But we had Laura Whitehorn, we had Susan Rosenberg, we had Linda Evans, we had Marilyn Buck, the Resistance Conspiracy Case, Sylvia Baraldini, Kathy Boudin, Judy Clark. All of these women prisoners, political prisoners, white anti-imperialist prisoners white anti-imperialist activist organizers who put it on the line and ended up going to prison, and they did work in the prison. Safia did the same thing. That's why they put her on death row to isolate her. You see, they had Assata in a men's prison. They said, keep these people away from folks at all costs. But today we don't hear about a lot of sisters who are political prisoners or prisoners of war, i.e. they were active before they went into the prison. But there are hundreds, if not thousands, of women in prisons across the country who are currently active now, doing work that may or may not be considered revolutionary, but is providing support to the sisters who are in prison, fighting for their rights within the prisons. We need to identify and support those sisters.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a part of the reason that starting off the show, especially in Black August, I wanted to uplift a lot of our women, because I think a lot of times whenever we hear about women political prisoners, it's like a past tense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, we got to work to get our people out, all our people out, but definitely want to uplift our women. And I'm wondering too, could you speak a bit more about
Okay, good.
the work you did? Oh,
well, is it a way
yeah.
to, and I don't know if it's my equipment or yours, but there are times when you go in and out. You've got Joy Powell on the line now. Is there a way to put her on speakerphone?
Well, she was actually, she was calling through a TTY device, so it wasn't actually her voice. It was,
okay.
Where they moved her to. She used to have this little thing that she could put on the phone, and she would talk herself. But since they moved her to this new unit at the moment, they don't have that TTY available there. So they must have taken her somewhere where she could use a TTY, because I've never gotten a call from her like that before, where somebody else is actually speaking what she said.
Mm-hmm.
But I told her what we were doing, and she was very, very happy to hear, and she wants to send everybody her regards. So that part, at least, we got cleared through. And she'll be calling me tomorrow. And I did send her your number, Piper, so hopefully she will add you to her list, and then you can have some direct communication, which would be great.
Yeah, we can
So
keep this going too, not just for Black August. Like maybe Black August is our kickoff, but we could keep this going. Keep it going. And I wanted to kind of also talk about because when what you mentioned about the women being invisible and making them more visible, I wanted you to share a little bit about maybe the ways in which I mean my concern is always like their safety and things like that too. So I'm wondering, like, could you speak a bit about that as well?
for me,
Who?
or
Yeah,
or
or either Tindy. I don't know if either one of you has experience with that.
The safety of women in prison?
Well, just
Mm,
like when you start to visibilize someone's case, the ways in which they could be retaliated against, so ways in which we could support, so to minimize that. I don't know, is it's a thing.
Amplification. You have to amplify what's happening, to
mhm.
which entails communication with folks, either the organizations or the sisters themselves. We have to amplify and let the prison administration know we are watching you
Exactly.
at this, because we look at, Asada Shakur, Safia Bukhari, Kuwaisi Balagoon. These were people who
Mhm.
broke themselves out of jail, okay?
Yep.
And then you got Safia, who's organized and tried to break other people out of jail. This is not the forum for that. I don't know anybody trying to break nobody out of jail. But other than breaking people out of jail, what are the means at our disposal? We have to put them on blast. It has to be publicized what they are doing, in addition to letting elected officials know you are going to have hell to pay if you don't deal with this issue in your district.
Hmm. And it's very effective to do that. It does actually work. We've run a lot of campaigns over the years for different prisoners, both men and women, depending on situation. And it has actually had a good effect. I mean, it works. You keep the pressure on and you publicize it and you keep calling these people and you have people calling them every day. You tie up their fax machine, whatever it is you need to do. And they eventually are like, all right, already. You know, it's like Robert
Yeah,
Scott
it's
Hayes
long
at one
and
point. It
tedious.
was funny. He said the prison is telling me to tell my supporters to stand down. And I said, you can tell the prison that you have no control over your supporters. And we are not stopping until you get the proper care that you need for your diabetes. And he told them that. I said, good for
Mm,
you. I said, that's all you need to tell them. You have no control over what we're doing out here, and we're going to keep doing it.
right.
We don't care what they say. Then they're tired of us calling up there. Well, then fix the problem, and then we won't be doing that. It works, though. It works. It really does, and it gets them quite discombobulated as well.
Mm,
Like I have
Hmm.
people calling to Bedford Hills because I know people call to Bedford Hills. A, they're not going to do anything, and B, they'll retaliate against you. So we have them call. We have people calling up to the central office in Albany, which is the ones in charge of all that anyway. So it's like a little way to avoid direct retaliation by the COs who are there because they already started doing that. After that whole thing with the incident with the bug bites and the pictures, some of the other women were having visits, and they came back later to their cells. And one of the women said to Joy, "Why is it your fault that we can't take pictures outside?" Because one of the CEOs in the visiting room told the woman, "You can't take pictures outside, and it's Joy Powell's fault."
yeah, they'll blame
So
another. See,
yeah,
that's,
that's like setting somebody up for retaliation. Exactly.
set them up for
Right?
retaliation. It's never the system's fault. It's never
Oh
their
no, of
fault.
course not.
You're going to
Of
blame
course not.
so this other prisoner has the power to stop all of this and stop all of everyone else's privileges. She got that much power. She can get out of prison.
Right,
She can work
exactly.
herself out. She got that much power, right?
True
Yeah,
that.
that's why we have to develop relationships with the other women in prison so that they will understand it's not that individual prisoner's fault. It is the system's
Yeah, like
fault.
the particular woman that was said to already knows Joy, and they she was not taking that into any account. She was just saying, now why the hell are they blaming it on you, kind of thing. So Joy explained what happened, and then one woman was like, "Oh, okay, so they're not letting us have pictures outside because somebody dared to take a picture of your bug bites. That's what it's all about."
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah,
That's
I
what it
was
was.
trying to see in the chat, like, what is this comment about flight of Politico? I started wearing glasses, y'all. I'm getting used to it. Uh, it says, what's a good question for a politician to move the plight of political prisoners into the open for discussion? What do you, I don't understand what that means. But
Well, see, here's the thing.
mm-hmm.
When we talk about political education, whether
Yeah.
it's here on Black Power Media, whether it's on study groups, book clubs, etc., our people have been criminalized. Our movements for liberation have been criminalized. One of the things that Baba
Exactly.
Sekou Odinga would always say is fighting for freedom is not a crime. So they'll tell you a
Right.
Sundiata Akoli and a Mumia Abu Jamal are cop killers. They'll tell you that Assata Shakur is a bank robber, or Mutulu Shakur, they're bank robbers. These are people who commit crimes. These are not, and so our movements for liberation and our actions on behalf of liberation are all criminalized. Therefore, the general public, which hates crime, lumps those folks in with everybody else. And we have to not only begin to educate people on the political nature of our oppression, the political nature of fighting for freedom and going against the state, we also have to be prepared at a certain point to say, you know what? The Black Panther Party was targeted for extinction.
Yes, it was.
In New York, in particular, police, New York, New Jersey police, state troopers had the descriptions and the license plates of vehicles. So when they go on the New Jersey Turnpike, as an example, they are targeted and they are stopped and possibly killed. So we don't give a damn if Sundiata Akoli took that trooper's gun and shot him in the head with it. We don't give a damn, because we should not have been targeted and criminalized when what we are doing is fighting for freedom. The same thing was done out here. Panthers would be followed, and before you can get your quote unquote license and registration, the police are firing on the cars. That's war. That's summary execution. What are we supposed to? Are we supposed to take that to our political representatives? Are we supposed to sign petitions on change.org because of something like that? Those Panthers responded in the way they were supposed to respond. Somebody was coming to kill them. So that's part of the political education that we have to get people to understand. And again, we're throwing it back on the state. Why are you doing this to people? Instead of saying to us, well, the reason why you've got an increased police presence is because of crime. Look at these bank robbers and cop killers. No. Why do you have us targeted for extinction? Targeted for execution? Why are you doing this to us? Don't let them off the hook. Yeah. I told you I can run my mouth all night.
I love it. For me, I love it. This is where I like the conversation to be. I want to also say bars. You're dropping bars. This is hip hop. This is women in hip hop. This is real women in hip hop. And those are bars that you're dropping. Hopefully we breaking these bars that people are behind, And
the mental bars that people are behind, because that's what I think holds a lot of people back in this society, is their own mental bars that they put up. We're not going to see what's real. We're not going to listen to what somebody like Dandy is saying. And that stops people from doing so many things. When you wall yourself off from reality in that way, and you refuse to see, what other people are saying, or try to feel what other people are experiencing. That's part of the reason that people don't do anything in this country, is because they have that mental and psychological thing going on. It's very, very, very annoying, to say the least. Very, very, very frustrating. You know what I mean?
I want to share my enthusiasm for people being involved in the chat. It means that
that's great.
People are going to be activated, I hope, in helping to amplify Joy's ask about the fans, but also, write to her and, put some money, like you said, and just amplify her story. I'm wondering, but before we go, I wanted you to share, and again, just in case, just because we're live and some people are just joining us, I know we said it at the top, but before we go, I wanted you to share a little, again, about the ways in which, and then Coco asked you in the middle, but before we go, I want you to repeat like how, we're asking people to support Joy, and also what Joy has asked of people to do.
Okay, can say it again. Well, one of the things, of course, if you want to support Joy, is write to Joy directly. You can do it, go up on her website. Her address is there. It's also on the JerichoMovement.com. It's also on JerichoNY.org in Bedford Hills. You can certainly write to her. You can write to her through JPay. If you don't have a JPay account, you can go to jpay.com and sign up for one. Look for New York State. Put in her DIN number, 07G0632. And then you can write to her directly that way. Keep in mind, all communication is monitored. Everything is read, before it gets to the person you want it to come to. As Sandy was saying before, don't say we're doing this and that. No, you don't want to say we're doing this and that. But Joy would love to hear from people. She herself is also an excellent writer, and she's written some excellent pieces and also some great poetry. So, you can share that with her. You can just let her know, this is who I am. This is how I heard about you. Like, I heard about you on Piper's show, and I decided I wanted to write to you. That would be fantastic. She would love that. And in the current moment, I'll reread this campaign. They're having a serious problem. They were having a serious problem with the bug infestation. And the women on Joy's unit were getting bitten by these bugs, which the prison doctor was opining, because we hadn't actually seen the bugs, were spiders. Now, we got some pictures of these bug bites. I spoke with the Correctional Association of New York, their group here in New York State, that has a mandate. They can go into the prisons without saying they're coming. They can investigate serious violations like, endless solitary confinement and people being mistreated and so on and so forth. This to them was probably fairly minor, but they did jump on it right away, because I got a call a couple days after that from Joy, and she said, I don't know what you did out there. It's a miracle. It's the first time in more than 16 years that I've been in this prison that we have seen any kind of exterminator come and do anything. The trouble was that they only did that unit, that cell block. They didn't do the whole building. So as any of us who live in cities know, if you spray your apartment, where are your bugs going to go? To your neighbor's apartment, right? Exactly. So we're asking people to call New York State Docs Commissioner Daniel F. Martuccello III, and he can be reached at 518-457-8126. That's 518-457-8126. And the Governor Hochul, and her number is 518-474-8390. That's 518-474-8390. And demand that they thoroughly fumigate the entire building, not with a whole bunch of toxic stuff, please, at Bedford Hills. And, get rid of what they call sink flies, which are because you haven't cleaned your drain pipes, flying cockroaches in the showers, and an infestation of mice throughout the prison. And, our loved ones should not be held in these horrible conditions. And, there are women there who have babies there too, so this is even affecting babies. And the complete lack of air conditioning is just totally unacceptable. And, have women suffering from excessive heat in both Bedford Hills and Taconic. You have women who are elders. You have women who have health conditions. This is seriously, seriously unsafe. So definitely encourage people to make those phone calls. And while you're doing it, the latest update I got from Joy was things have gone from bad to worse, because suddenly on August 23rd, they moved her entire unit and put them somewhere else, claiming that they had to do something about fixing doors. So the unit that they were moved to was so dirty that it took Joy herself a day and a half just to clean her cell. There was trash all over the place. There were the bugs coming in through the windows. There was no TTY accommodation for someone like Joy who is hard of hearing. And the bugs are coming through the windows too, because most of the screens are missing. And the COs, in addition to all that, refused to supply the women with cleaning supplies so they could clean the area. So that's happening just now, and it is important. And there's also a group of people in Bedford Hills who are trying to get together and buy some small 8-inch fans for the women. So that's bit.ly, bit.ly/Bedford fans with a capital B and a capital F. And that would be great if people want to contribute to that small endeavor. In the meantime, until they get the AC, at least the women would have some kind of air movement. They're only little, small 8-inch fans, but it's better than nothing. And, we have to do this. We have to care for each other and love each other, no matter where we are, So if somebody's inside the walls, and I know many people in this country have loved ones inside the walls, because we got way too many people sitting inside those walls in this country because of, all the things that Andy, we were saying before. It's absolutely true. There's no need for this to be happening. If you're black or brown, you're going to prison for something minor. And if you're white, you're not going to go to prison for something major. And if you're white and rich, you're not going to go to prison at all. So, it behooves us to care for each other and learn from each other and organize, as somebody said before. Yes, organize, organize, organize. Something that Safia Bukhari was tremendous at. And I could only wish she was still with us. But we try to follow in her footsteps, and we try to pick up the work, and we try to continue to do what we do. And so do write to Joy, right? Write to Joy. She'll write back to you. She can tell you all kinds of interesting things. She can talk about her children. Next time we talk, Piper, I'm going to see if I can get in touch with her son who's down in Georgia. He spoke excellently for his mother on another program about a year ago. And we'll see if she can get on herself. I would have put her on if that was actually her, but it was some TTY thing. That's why I didn't pick it up the first time it rang, because I was like, that's not Joy's number. And then I realized, right, they moved her. She's probably calling from a different phone. Anyway, folks, yeah, please. And thank you so much, Piper, for doing this. I really appreciate it. This has been tremendous and a big, big help. And it's just great to have this conversation, among women. Really fantastic.
Yeah, we wanna. It's not the end. It's just the beginning.
Right.
Also, too, I wanted to ask you, Tandy. We got about 5 minutes left. I wanted to see if there's anything that you didn't get a chance to say that you feel we need to add to the conversation, or you wanted to say before we go.
Well, yeah, I want to share this email I got earlier today from Noelle Hanrahan of Prison Radio. Prison Radio amplifies the voices of Mumia and other prisoners. And tomorrow, August 29th, 5 p.m. Eastern, there's going to be a Black August letter writing campaign. And the email states, we know that the power of the movement comes from connections to the inside, tangible, real letters, phone calls, and visits, the building blocks of trust, bonds, and family ties. We learn, we see the strategic knowledge that is born from the fires of resistance and the refusal to cede our humanity. Our connections stoke those freedom dreams that are born inside and emerge to lead the movement. Abolition is fundamentally about imagining the future freedom that we deserve. This is the path that we are on. Join us, that's Prison Radio, as we partner with Law for Black Lives and HEARD, HEARD. It is an honor to come together with these groups. Safir Ness and Noelle Hanrahan of Prison Radio will be on the broadcast live. It's going to be a Zoom gathering tomorrow. This drop-in style event, Right On, a Black August letter writing campaign, aims to extend solidarity to individuals incarcerated across the nation. Your involvement will be highly valued and impactful. So if you go to Law for Black Lives, that's the number 4, blacklives.com, scroll down their page, you'll see the graphic towards the bottom, Right Now, WRITE, a Black August letter writing campaign. And you'll see how to sign up for this Zoom tomorrow, August 29th, 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah, and then when is your show?
This Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. East is going to be my last Black August sturdy struggle and study session. It's called Revolution Without Women Ain't Happening. And I'm going to
That's
be
right.
using audio from presentations by Asada Shakur, and our new African freedom fighter exiled in Cuba, and Aminata Umoja, a new African freedom fighting educator in Atlanta, Georgia.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's a powerful show that you got going on there. If y'all want some serious political education that you can understand,
Then I do polysyllabic
y'all would have
words.
tuned in. And it's called is it called what's it called? Root work?
It's called root work. We're trying to get down to the roots.
Yeah.
All
Not
right.
the root, not the root, the roots.
The roots. Yeah, gotcha. my shouts to my grandma and them is from Alabama, so I know the
Right,
roots.
right, right.
No, but it's a really powerful show. And Black Power Media got, women on here that's like so powerful. It's just amazing. I'm just like really honored, to be in this space. I'm glad that everybody got a chance to join us. Shouts out to all the people who have, just on all the chat people who I see on all the other shows, you know what I'm saying? Who's that? Quaker Anarchist and Pamela Jones and who's that? I don't never know how to say your name. Is it
In Monyama.
is that what it is?
That's what it looks like.
Okay, yeah, I never know how to say that. And I get it mixed up with it looks like I mix what I like, but it's not. And then yeah, Maureen and who else is up in here? Um August 3rd. I mean, there's so many
Yeah,
people.
shout out August 3rd, Free Land.
Yeah, free the land. So, y'all were up in here. Who's that? Yipper 99.
Right, right.
So who's that? James and just so many people. We so appreciate y'all. I want to say much gratitude to Coco for stopping by because I know Coco is a parent with a little baby. And so thank you for making the space, to come by here on a time when you did not have scheduled. So thanks for that. I also want to thank you, Time the Z Sway. You was like, okay, because I know you a busy person. And so thank you so much for making the time. And I really, really appreciate you. I want to send you lots of gratitude. And to you, Anne, for, making the space and time and like sharing these updates with us. Just coming to let us know like what's going on and how we can participate. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, for me, so this show is every Monday at 8:00 Eastern. And it's beyond breaking barriers. We do center on women in hip hop, but for me, the relationship between hip hop and the carceral state is intricately locked. And so for me, this is we're doing the fifth element of hip hop on this show. That's the knowledge element where we get to like unpack all the aspects of the culture that we want people to rap about. So hopefully this will inspire all your artists. So I just want to thank everyone for joining. So Black Power Media, we're on all the socials, but Twitter, I think Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and follow Black Power Media, support Black Power Media, support the Patreon. I think they want to move people over to the Patreon to support if you're giving financial support and if you join. And again, click the like button, share, subscribe, and check out some more of the shows here on Black Power Media. So I just want to say thank you to everybody and peace.
Peace.
Peace. And thank you so much.